Is renting really a waste of money? Well, maybe. The issue is that this sentence oversimplifies the most expensive decision you will ever make in your entire life. Should you buy a home or continue renting? And that's why we will go through all the financial and lifestyle arguments one by one so you can make the decision that's right for you. All in this PerFinEx video. The first pro-buying argument is probably the most obvious one. Jackie Wang summarizes this the best in a comment below of one of our oldest videos. You can just pay your own mortgage instead of somebody else's mortgage, right? And since property prices tend to go up over the long term, you will be a lot better off paying off your own mortgage and profiting from this property price increase. A renter doesn't get anything from paying his landlord's mortgage. And that's the classical home bias, my friends, that ignores one simple fact. The average real estate financing in December last year was 334,000 euros according to Europace, the largest platform for real estate financing here in Germany. What can you buy for 334,000 euros? In Berlin, this 60 square meter 2-room flat in Prenzlauer Berg, which would cost you with current realistic mortgage numbers, 4% interest plus 2% principal, 6% per year or 1,700 euros per month. You can rent a similar flat, also in Prenzlauer Berg, for much less per month. And the same for Frankfurt and for Munich. All the same in the big German cities where you guys usually live. Renting costs about half as much as buying. And you can do the experiment for yourself with your own flat. For me, it would be even worse. I would have to pay almost 3 times as much to buy the apartment that I am renting. What's the point of all of this? If renting is cheaper than buying, renters can invest the difference. They have to actually. Because homeowners are building assets and wealth, renters should do that too. And if you have FOMO that you will not participate from rising property prices, you can just buy investment properties and continue renting your own apartment. That's what I'm doing too. Let's talk about this rent versus mortgage comparison a little more, because this comes up in meeting with you guys every once in a while. And it's a pretty big apples versus oranges comparison. Here's why. Most people think that rent is a waste of money, right? It's not, but we'll come to this as we progress through the video. And the same people think their mortgage is not a waste of money. Well, homeowners are also throwing money out of the window. They just don't realize it. Renting is easy to calculate, right? I pay my rent to my landlord and additionally I pay for utilities. In my case, just electricity and internet because water and heating is included in my rent already. Very easy. But what about buying? That's certainly not as easy, and that's why people usually shift the numbers back and forth until they're pretty enough for them. Before you can even buy a property, you have to pay roughly 10% closing costs, notary, ground purchasing taxes, and maybe even a real estate agent. That alone sets you back tens of thousands of euros compared to a renter, because he has to pay nothing. I know there's caution, the 3 monthly rents you have to give your landlord as a security deposit, but you get it back after you move out. And you're not getting your notary or agent fees back. Ever. As a real estate investor, you can at least deduct the closing costs from your taxes, so you get up to 42% of that back, which is nice, but as a homeowner, you have to pay all out of your own pocket. And maybe you have to pay even more. If the bank doesn't like your property or your financial situation, or both, they require you to pay a down payment. The average mortgage last December was 334,000 euros if you remember from earlier in the video. So that is 33,400 euros just in fees to buy the property, and maybe even another 33,400 euro as a down payment. The moment you buy your home, you may be 66,800 euro in the hole, which the renter can invest. If he does, his investment would grow to 130,000 over 10 years with the historic 7% return of the stock market, over 250,000 in 20 years, or more than 500,000 in 30 years. And it doesn't stop there, because the homeowner has to pay running costs as well. The mortgage, of course, which consists of principal, you decreasing your loan every month, and interest, the costs to borrow money. And these interest costs is what people tend to forget more often than not. Because if rent is a waste of money in your understanding, interest is a waste of money as well. Or is it not? And with the example mortgage of 334,000 euros we discussed earlier, the interest amounts to over 200,000 until you paid back your mortgage, which homeowners have to pay completely out of their own pocket and real estate investors can deduct from their taxes, like Agiris said in his comment. So far, we are comparing the rent payment with the mortgage payment, but that's not correct, because homeowners have to pay utilities, like the renter, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance on top of their mortgage. Now, some of you might say that maintenance and repairs are optional, and that's true, you don't have to do it. But if you don't pay for repairs while you live in the property, you will pay for that later on with a lower sales price. And this is then exactly where the new buyer thinks that he made a really good deal when buying your property below market value, like we discussed in this video. Talking about maintenance costs and repairs, here's a screenshot of my personal rental contract. Generally speaking, I do have to pay for repairs, but only if they are small repairs from things that I use. So there's no roof included in this, no facade, no electricity or the heating system. All these super expensive things are excluded. And all of these small repairs I generally have to pay for are capped at 75 euros per repair, which is nothing. And that's what some of you guys from the community commented as well, that renovation costs can become an absolute nightmare. So, my landlord, if you're watching this, thank you very much, because I will probably never ever have to pay for any repairs, ever. Which means, again, that renters can save more money compared to homeowners. So far, this looks a little negative towards the buying side of things. So let's get some pro arguments in again. While real estate investors have to wait 10 years before they can sell their rental properties tax-free, homeowners can sell their property tax-free if they lived in it for at least 3 years. That's nice. Tax-free profits are always good, am I right? But keep in mind that we had roughly 10% closing costs when buying our home. So if you actually wanted to lock in some profits, your home would need to rise at least 10% in value over 3 years. Otherwise, you made a loss anyway. So buying a home with the intent to sell it tax-free again after 3 years is probably not going to work out. That's just too short of a time frame. For real estate investors, the number look better and worse at the same time. Better because closing costs can be deducted from your taxes, and worse because properties can only be sold tax-free after 10 years. You want to know the biggest reason why I think buying a home can be a good idea? Because people are usually not that excited about saving and investing. You'd rather spend money on some fun things right now than saving for retirement, right? But when it comes to buying a home, people really like to save for their dream property. And once they have a mortgage, they're forced to save by the bank every single month. And that's why homeowners have, generally speaking, a higher net worth than renters. We talked about that earlier, that renters need to save and invest more than homeowners to catch up, which they usually don't because they're not forced to do it. And once your mortgage is paid off, you might even live cheaper than a renter. Not completely free if you keep in mind that you have to pay for repairs, insurance, property taxes and whatnot, but you don't have to pay rent anymore. When thinking this thought through until the very end, I would like to know on which side of the argument you're standing. Let's say you buy a home, and over the decades it doubles, triples, tenfolds, whatever in value. Congrats to you and your rising net worth. But what did you actually gain? My mom makes this argument all the time that her house was a really good investment because it doubled in value. Okay, but if she actually wanted to lock in that profit and sell the house, it's not like she could afford a house twice as big now, because all the other houses in the area doubled in value too. Or did they not? If only your home increases in value and all the other houses don't, okay, that's great then. But I don't think this is how it works. And that's why I agree with Kola Adebayo, your home is not an investment. And that's where the term house rich, cash poor comes from. Alter Modernist 3634 disagrees with us, which is fine of course, but I'm not sure whose logic is faulty. If I buy a stock or an investment property and they double in value. Great! I made a really great investment if I lock in that profit. Unlike a homeowner who cannot lock in his profit unless he moves out of his home. And then what? You obviously don't want to be renting, that's why you bought a home in the first place, so you have to buy a new home, which got more expensive as well. Again, if only your home rises in value and others don't, good for you. I don't think that's how it works, but let me know what you think in the comments. Aside from higher net worth, homeowners also have increased safety compared to renters. It's true that renters in Germany are very protected in front of the law, just like employees, but if my landlord really wanted to kick me out, he could do it sooner or later. And of course, you can do whatever the f you want in your own home. You want to paint the walls pink? Go ahead. You have the freedom to design your home however you like it without any limitations, unlike me as a tenant. And of course, you have this feeling of having your own roof over your head, which seems to be a cultural thing with you guys coming from all the different parts of this world. I myself as a German can't really understand that because we're a nation of renters. We have by far the lowest rate of home ownership in Europe, with the exception of Switzerland. But please don't make the mistake and think that buying a home will make you happy if you're not already happy with your life as it is right now. Here's a really good study from the Institute of Labor Economics that shows that people severely overestimate the happiness they get from buying a home. Because as soon as people realize how much money they spend and that they have to pay a mortgage now for decades or the bank will kick them out, that's when buyer's remorse sets in and homeowners start to regret their purchase. And that's why I personally like renting myself, because of all the financial benefits that come with it, given of course that I have to invest the rest in real estate or something else instead, and it makes my life just so much easier. I don't have to stay in my flat all my life if I don't want to do it. In fact, I'm moving into a new flat in May because I feel it's time to move on after living for 4 years in the same place. And that's the benefit of renting, that we're flexible. And we have zero responsibility compared to homeowners. Because we talked about it earlier, if homeowners do not take care of their property, they will pay for it later on with a lower resale value. There's no right or wrong answer here. What we wanted to show you in this video is that, contrary to popular belief, renting is indeed the better option for most, at least financially speaking. But hey, if you want to really buy a home and have the money to afford it, why not? Everybody can spend their money however they like it. I like to spend my money in the most efficient way possible, that's why I rent and buy investment properties. But if you want to buy a home for yourself, all power to you.